Hello everyone, Bhavna Gunwani this side. Today in this session we will talk about inheritance, which is an important object-oriented programming concept in which one class acquires the properties and behaviors of another class. Let's understand more and deeper. In inheritance, one object acquires all the properties and behaviors of a parent object. Basically, it represents a parent and child relationship between two classes. You can create new class that are built upon the existing class to reuse its piece of code. We can also implement is a relationship and has a relationship using inheritance. Is a relationship is something where one class inherit another class. That is called a parent-child relationship also. And has a relationship is whenever an instance of one class is used in another class. I will talk about both the practical implementation very soon. Whenever you inherit from an existing class into the child class, you can reuse the methods and fields of the parent class, but you really need to make sure the right access modifier has to be given. For example, if you are trying to access the private member of the parent class into the child class, you are not allowed or supposed to do that. But if you are accessing any protected or public member of the parent class to be used in the child class, that you can easily use with the help of this concept. This is one of the example being given, and so many real-time entities are there in our day-to-day life which are based upon this inheritance. You can see that vehicle is one of the entity. We have different vehicles. We have bikes, cars, buses and trucks. Every vehicle has a common behavior like the brand of that, the color of it and speed of it. But bikes will have the different behaviors like escalators or something, clutches and all. Cars, depending upon you have an automatic car or manual car. You have buses, you have trucks. Trucks will also have a weight, how weight it can take and the larger capacity. Number of tires are different in trucks as compared to bikes, cars and buses. So vehicle is basically a base class that you can consider, and considering the attributes and behaviors of the common properties that can be related to the bikes, cars, buses and trucks. One more example I would like to iterate that comes in my mind right now. For example, an employee is a common entity. Employee will have a name, employee will have employee ID, salary, designation. But if we have a salaried employee and hourly paid employee, then salaried employee might have a calculation of HRA, DA, PF and everything. But hourly employee is something that he or she will get paid on the number of basis on the number of hours he or she is working. So there is no extra HRA, DA and PF is being calculated. So this is how you can implement them in real time. We are already running with the student entity, so let's go more deeper in that and understand how it gets implemented with the help of inheritance. Inheritance is something that only helps in reusability the piece of code and reduces the time and efforts of the programmer. It does not have any association in reducing the space complexity at all. So, ready to start with the practical implementation? Until next time, stay tuned. Thank you so much, everyone. Hello, everyone. Bhavna Gunwani this side. Let's understand practically how a class can inherit another one. That is a relationship where one class acquires the properties and behaviors of another class. As I told you, that's a parent-child relationship. So let's understand with the help of an example. Here we have a class student where we have three data members, ID, name and age. Scanner class is declared in the student class itself. That will be my parent class for rest of the child classes. And here we have two data members, accept details and display details. I would like to add on certain functionalities into this piece of code, because a student will also have two more properties, objective and subjective marks. to calculate their result, but the student class is common for other assignments, other practical implementations also. So I cannot modify this class, but I exactly need these properties and behaviors along with two other. So what I will do is I will go and create one class, marks class. I will extend my student class as a parent into the marks class. So in this case, your student will become the parent class and marks will become the child class, or the student will also be known as a base class. With respective marks will also be known as a derived class. We can also term it as a superclass, student, and subclass marks. So that is how the terminologies works in the inheritance. So now we need to add the properties and behaviors into the marks class. I'm going to declare two private fields of float type, that is objective marks and subjective marks. You can also declare them in same line. Choice is completely yours. Going to declare, even though define the accept details to get the details of marks class, but I already have accept details in the parent class, so I'm going to name it as an accept details 1. Taking out the objective and subjective marks from the user, enter objective marks, and then I'm going to scan it out in the float type. Objective marks equals to scanner dot next float. Same thing I'm doing for the subjective marks. Post that, I would also like to print their details. So I have display details already in the parent class, naming it as display details 1. Sys out objective marks and subjective marks. Now my marks class is ready, where we have two attributes and two behaviors. I'm going to I'm going to instantiate my child class, that is my marks class. What gets happen is, guys, the moment I instantiate my marks class, which is a child class, as I told you, inheritance does not support you to reduce any space complexity. It just reduces the time and efforts of the programmer. So when you declare the instance or object of a child class, at that time the memory gets allocated to the data members of the parent class as well as the child class. And you know that member functions gets the memory when they are invoked. So first I wanted to get the detail. You can also do one thing. You can just name this instance as a reference variable as student info, and you can then simply say student info dot accept the student details, then student info dot accept the marks details, and then display them respectively. Student info dot display details and student info dot display details 1. So this is how the sequence works. So all the student information is related to one student, where the basic details from the parent class as well as the child class. This is exactly how it works. Let me just try to run this program and help you out. So you can see that it's accepting the student detail, naming it as Karthik Sharma. Student ID is 1001, age is 23, objective marks and subjective marks and respectively details are getting printed. I hope this basic skeleton of the inheritance is clear to you. We have more coming behaviors in the inheritance iterations. Until next time, stay tuned. Thank you. Hello everyone, Bhavna Gunwani this side. Today in this session we will talk about different types of inheritance. As I told you, inheritance helps in reusability of code where parent class, data members and member functions can be used in the child class to reduce the time and efforts of the programmer. With respect to that, we have a different iterations to implement the inheritance in object-oriented programming. Although we have 5 types, but in Java only 3 types are possible with classes, and rest 2 can be possible with the help of interfaces, which I will be telling you later. Basically, first is a single inheritance. In the single inheritance, you can see that this is the simplest form of inheritance where we have one superclass and one subclass inheriting it, where one class inherits another class only. In the case of another type, that is a multi-level, here it's being described. This is an extension to single inheritance in Java, where you can see that class A inherited to this another A, it should be B, and B inherited to the C. With respect, A's features can accessible to C as well, where one class can have inherit to the subclass and which inherits to the another subclass as well. In the case of hierarchical inheritance, what gets happen is the one parent class can be accessible to other classes, multiple classes. So C will have the features to be accessible in class A or with the object of class A or with the object of class B, but there is no association between class A and class B itself. Another 2 are the hybrid and multiple inheritance, but I will introduce them using interfaces in the later sections. So right now we have already implemented the single inheritance where we have a parent class as student class in our code, and marks is a subclass or a child class. That I'm going to extend with the help of a multi-level inheritance by adding on more classes into it. So let's get started to understand practically. Here I already have student as a parent class and marks as a child class. I don't want to, or I'm not supposed to make any changes to these 2 classes because they are already being used in some other applications, maybe as a model or as an entity. I would like to add more behaviors of sports entity where the sports score needs to be accepted and displaying the details of it. And later on, objective subjective marks along with the score of sports entity will help me to calculate the result as well. So I'm going to create a class sports that is going to extend the marks class. Here I'm going to add a private data member that is of float type to take the score details of the sports, accept details to that will take the scores from the end user, sys out, enter sports score, score equals to scanner dot next float. Same I'm going to print in display details to, which is sys out sports score is equals to whatever user has entered. Now my extreme child class is sports. So this is a multi-level inheritance. First of all, class student inherited into the marks class marks inherited into the sports class. I'm going to instantiate my an instance of extreme child class, that is sports. First, I am already accepting the details of student, basic information of it. Then the marks details, which is objective and subjective. Now I'm going to accept the details of sports, details like sports score. And then I'm going to display them in a chaining mechanism. So I hope this part is very clear to all of you. Now with the help of an extreme child class, I can access the behaviors of the parent class. So far, I really don't need to feel like I need to allow the data members to be accessible from outside the class definition or maybe from the child classes. That I will do in one more extent. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more level in this inheritance, that is the result. Result is not at all in the favor of accepting and displaying any details. It is just to calculate the total and average marks of any student. So that I'm going to extend my sports class. Ideally, I need three classes here: student class, marks class, and another class, that is the sports class. But one class can inherit only one class at a time in Java. So I'm going to inherit the sports class. Sports class is the extreme child class so far. So this is a multi-level inheritance when class A, which is student, inherits to B, which is marks. B, which is marks, inherited to class C, which is sports. Sports C, which is inherited to class D. So D is going to inherit A, B and C, which is student, marks and sports. I hope this hierarchy is clear to everyone. Going to add two private fields: private float, total marks and average marks. Here I'm going to add a calculate details or calculate result kind of method. Now please understand in a very appropriate manner. Here we wanted to calculate the result, which is the total and average marks. Total marks is basically a sum of objective marks, subjective marks from the marks class and the sports class from the score entity attribute from the sports class. But you will see that the moment I will write here total marks equals to objective marks, I'm not supposed to access it. Why I'm not supposed to access it, guys? Although this needs to be accessible because this is the child class and child class should have an access, but I am not to. Why? Guys, the moment I told you that private members are accessible from its own class only, not even from outside the class, not even from the child classes. So I really mean it. So that is the reason that these are the private members and these can only be accessible in its own class, that is a marks class. If you will make them public, they can be accessible from anywhere, from other packages also. And by default members are there, so they can also be accessible from its own .java file, from its own package anywhere. But I don't want to allow them within a package even. I just wanted to allow them to be used within its own class and the child class. So there is another access modifier going to introduce, that is protected. Protected access modifier allow its members to be accessible within its own class and the child classes. So I'm going to make objective marks, subjective marks and the score as protected. So in the child class they can be accessible and its own class also. Objective marks, you can see that now it's accessible, plus subjective marks and plus score. Total marks is being calculated here with the sum of these three marks, and then I'm going to calculate the average marks. Average marks is equals to total marks divided by 3, and here I'm going to sys out total marks and average marks. After that, I also wanted to change into the main method. I would like to instantiate the extreme child class, that is student, that is result, I'm so sorry. Accepting the student basic information, then marks details and the score details, then displaying them one after the another, and at the end I'm going to calculate the result. Now I can just run the application and I'll let you know how it will be working upon. So you can see that. Let me just kill this terminal and just re-execute it. Student details, which is Karthik, ID 101, age 34, objective marks, score, and that's how the details are printed along with the total marks, which is 209, and average marks, which is 209 divided by 3, around 69.66 something. Now I wanted to tell you two most important things here, guys. First of all, I wanted to tell you, I also wanted to see one more iteration with the help of if else. There is a condition if objective marks is greater than 70 and subjective marks is greater than 70 and average marks is greater than and equals to 75, then I just wanted to print a message to the user. Congratulations, you are shortlisted for your interview. Otherwise, I wanted to print the message sys out, sorry, better luck next time. So you can see that the moment I execute my application once again, Karthik 23, it should be ID, but that's accepted, it's a numeric. 34, objective marks is 89, subjective is 98, score is 90, so almost average would be beyond that, and congratulations, you are shortlisted for your interview. If in case I run it again and I do not allow it with the range, like for example, I'm just going to enter it Sarah 101, 45, objective marks is 90, subjective marks is 40, maybe score is 60 whatsoever. So you can see that average is not under the range, also the subjective is also less than 70. So it's saying sorry, better luck next time. This is one thing, or so many other if else conditions you can put on based upon the case study being provided to you or the client requirement is. After that, I wanted to tell you most important thing, guys. You can see that in my each class there is a accept and display detail methods. So I need to change the name of the methods into the child class because that method name is already available in the parent class. So really I don't want that. So what I would like to do is I would like to name the same methods in the child classes, accept details and display details in the parent class as well as child classes. This way. So what will happen, guys? It will be giving me error. First of all, accept detail 1 and 2 is not available and display detail 1 and 2 is also not available. So now let me just save it. Now there is a question from everyone. When I'm going to say student info.accept detail and it is an instance of result class, which accept detail will call upon. So it will go to the parent, it will go to the result class and will check, do I have accept detail? No. It will go to the parent class and will check, do you have accept detail? Yes. If it is not there in its own class, it will give a priority to the parent class. Otherwise, it will give a priority to its own class always. So accept detail and display detail of the sports class gets executed. Let me help you out how exactly what I really mean it. So you can see that accepting the score, displaying it and calculating total and average. But I also wanted to call the marks class accept detail. Then from before marks, I wanted to call the sports student class accept detail. So guys, there is a very superior keyword. super dot accept detail. So what will happen when it will come and execute the sports class accept detail? Before executing the piece of code being written here, it will go to the super class, which is the marks class, will look out the accept detail and print that. And same thing I'm doing it up here, super dot accept detail. Before executing its piece of code, it will go to the super class, which is a student class, execute the accept detail, and then will come out and execute whatever accept detail lines you have executed, return instructions you have written in this particular method. So it will go to the accept detail first, this one, and then remaining piece of code will be executed from its own class, and same thing will happen for the sports class. And similarly, the display detail works. I hope this quick iteration is clear to everyone what I really mean it, and how does the super keyword itself plays a very important role in inheritance. Let me just save it and execute it. How does it perform? So you can see that it is first accepting the student details. Let's say Gautam, ID, age, objective marks, subjective marks, score, and here the total marks, average marks, and here is the calculation. I am really hoping, guys, this multi-level inheritance with, I think what are the major parts I could cover with the help of is a relationship or a parent-child relationship using inheritance is covered to you. More things coming your way with the help of inheritance, like chaining mechanism and something more. For that, you need to stay tuned. Thank you so much, guys. Keep learning.